Hey guys, my name is Arevalo and I will be doing my presentation on prohibition and I will be leading you guys through this PowerPoint presentation. So the first question we're going to ask is, what is prohibition? So prohibition was a period in the United States where the sale, manufacture, and transportation of liquor was illegal. And prohibition lasted for a period of nearly 14 years. So it was from the years 1920 to 1933. And as you can see in the picture on the right, these were prohibition agents who were responsible for throwing away the liquor, getting anyone who was drinking or selling illegal alcohol. And this is what they would mainly do, throw away all the liquor down the sewage. So the next questions we are going to ask ourselves is, when did prohibition start? So prohibition was introduced in the 1920s, as we said in the previous slide, and it was an attempt to legislate morality. It was more of an attempt to decrease what we thought were evils that was brought to us upon by alcohol. And some of these evils were murders, a lot of crime that was committed during that time. And it was also said that alcohol brought society more corruptness and also new types of crime. And World War I was thought to be the main key provider for the anti-alcohol movement. So during this time, there was a lot of things going on around this time, not just prohibition. And so we're going to look at certain things that were going around this time. So this era was characterized by speakeasies. So during this time, a lot of speakeasies were opening up, and these were secret bars for people to come in, drink, and socialize. And many of these speakeasies were opened up by gangsters. They were run by them, and it was where people would come in and drink illegal alcohol. And one of the famous speakeasies during Prohibition era was the Cotton Club. A lot of drinking went on there, a lot of partying, a lot of alcohol consumption, and a lot of raiding by the Prohibition agents. Gangsters were also a really big impact during the time of Prohibition. They were mainly known as a new breed of gangsters who arose during this time of need. These people took notice of the amazingly high levels of demand of alcohol within society and the extremely limited avenues of supply of alcohol. So with this imbalance of supply and demand, they saw a lot of profit coming in. And these gangsters would hire men to smuggle in rum from the Caribbean or hijack whiskey from Canada and bring it to the United States. They were also make homemade liquor, and they would open up these secret bars that were known as the speakeasies. So they mainly ran these speakeasies during the time. And Prohibition was a time in which the average citizen broke the law. We saw a lot of law breakings, a lot of people who really wouldn't break the law go into corruption because they wanted to drink beer. As you can see in these signs, people were protesting saying, "We want beer," and they were doing anything by any means to get that. So now we're going to take a look at how the process was to Prohibition, and we're going to take a look at the first attempt to Prohibition. So a number of societies organized as a part of the new temperance movement. And the temperance movement was an attempt to stop people from becoming intoxicated. The temperance movement also blamed alcohol for many of society's wrongdoings, especially crime and murder. And so more about the temperance movement. The temperance movement blamed alcohol for many of its society's effects, like we saw on the previous slide. And because of this, saloons, which were where men would go and drink, was seen as a place of evil. People who were for Prohibition thought that passing Prohibition would stop men from spending all their income in alcohol and also prevent accidents that happened at work when people were drunk. And as we can see to your picture of your right, it states So in the beginning of the 20th century, there were temperance organizations in nearly every state, and this was the main push to passing the 18th Amendment. So now we see the 18th Amendment is passed. In 1916, over half of the U.S. states had statuses that prohibited alcohol. So on January 16, 1920, the 18th Amendment took effect, and it prohibited the sale and manufacture of alcohol. As you can see in the bottom picture, a lot of people were devastated by this prohibition movement, and people were trying as much as they could to buy alcohol before prohibition took effect. So the Volstead Act. While it was the 18th Amendment that established prohibition, it was the Volstead Act that clarified the law, because the 18th Amendment really didn't clarify the law. So the Volstead Act stated that beer, wine, or other intoxicating malt or vinous liquors, which meant any average beverage that was more than 0.5% alcohol by volume, was illegal. The act also stated that owning any item designed to manufacture alcohol was illegal, and it set specific fines and jail sentences for violating prohibition. So then there came loopholes. So even though the Volstead Act tried to clarify the 18th Amendment, it did not mention the actual drinking of liquor. So that is when loopholes were invented and became very popular at the time. And loopholes were a place where people can go and drink legally, as we had stated in the previous slides. And many people went out and bought many cases of alcohol before prohibition got started, and it was also allowed to consume alcohol if they had a doctor's prescription, and we saw a lot of rise in doctor prescriptions during that time. So one of the main gangsters during this time was Al Capone. He ran a lot of speakeasies and was also known for bribing federal government. A lot of these prohibition agents were responsible for raiding speakeasies and finding stills and arresting gangsters, but many of these agents were underqualified and underpaid, leading to high rate of bribery, which many of these gangsters took knowledge of and really went on their way to bribing a lot of people during this time. So even though the 18th Amendment was passed to better society, it also brought many problems, as we will talk about in the next couple of slides. So on December 5th, 1933, the 18th Amendment was repealed. So the 21st Amendment was passed. We've seen that the 18th Amendment was unsuccessful, and one of the ways in which it was unsuccessful is that people were breaking the law. We saw a lot of more alcohol consumption than ever before. We've seen a lot of crime rates go high because of this prohibition. We saw a lot of gangsters coming up, speakeasies, a lot of loopholes. People were trying to go around this 18th Amendment, and it was causing more problems than it had before. And also the Great Depression was called for jobs and taxing companies during that time. And we knew that alcohol would bring those jobs and taxations that were needed. So on December 5th, 1933, the 21st Amendment is passed. And this amendment repealed the 18th Amendment, which made alcohol legal again. So thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it, and hopefully you guys learned a little bit more about prohibition. And in the previous slide, I have a video that might clarify some things that I might not have clarified for you. So hopefully you guys enjoy, and thank you very much.